in the absence of boundaries, there can be chaos, where there can be misunderstanding, where there's lack of communication, where, if we don't speak up for ourselves and there's a boundary that we would like to have, but we don't express that, and then someone crosses that, right? Now there's tension, and there's people can become upset, and there's a conflict where, had we expressed that boundary, there wouldn't be a conflict. I think for entrepreneurs, it's important to have boundaries.
You're listening to the Black to Business podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome back to another episode of the Black to Business podcast. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall, and today we're diving into how to create boundaries and hold yourself accountable to reach your business goals. As entrepreneurs, we're overly familiar with the idea of creating and setting boundaries within our businesses and our personal lives. The presence of boundaries in our businesses help us effectively navigate our desired goals for our businesses. We may, however, not always know how to both set and communicate the boundaries to those around us. Our guest today gives us a detailed breakdown of boundaries, the importance of setting the boundaries, and living up to them. As she eloquently puts it, the absence of boundaries leads to chaos, lack of communication, and understanding with those around you. We unpack the importance of setting frameworks and limits to the way people have access to us and our business, and we also explore how to set outrageously realistic goals and live up to them. Today, we're speaking with Brandy Varnado, serial entrepreneur, accountability coach, author, portrait photographer, and host of the Brandy Was Here podcast, and she's also the creator of TBM Skincare. This masterclass is worthy of a notepad and a pen, so I hope you're ready. Let's dive into it. So, Brandy, welcome to the Black to Business podcast. We are very excited to have you on the show today. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Of course. So, I'm really excited about today's topic because I know that you're a serial entrepreneur. And one of the things I think is very important for us to discuss is how to create boundaries, but also to hold ourselves accountable. But before we hop into that, just a little, if you could quickly give my audience a little bit about who you are, what is it that you do in your business?
Yeah, so my name is Brandy Varnado. I am an accountability coach, mindset mentor. I've spent 12, almost 13 years as a classroom teacher, which gave me a lot of opportunity to work with boundaries, to help hold others accountable, but also just to work on my self-accountability. I became an entrepreneur at a very young age. I was 9 years old when I started my first business, and it failed, and I started another business, and I kept going. So just through life experience, being able to overcome obstacles and roadblocks that got in my way, and then seeking to help other people to do the same. I started my coaching business in 2017 at a time where I felt that I got really good about doing these things that other people were struggling with. And I started just with a group of friends, people. At the time I was into fitness, and I said, hey, I'm going to be working out. If anybody wants to come with me, you can come. And that turned into a group chat, which turned into a Facebook page, which turned into a business eventually, where I help people who really struggle with excuses and struggle with holding themselves accountable, and who have wanted to push through these obstacles that have been getting in their way to pursue, living their best life and to do the things that they have been wanting to do for a long time.
Beautiful. And I love that you said that you started at 9, something failed, but you kept going and you started again, which is amazing. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Of course. And so one of the things you mentioned is boundaries. So I want to start there because I think it's very important for us to learn how to create boundaries in our everyday life, but also in business. So if you could just tell me a little bit about why do you think boundaries are important, and what do you feel are business boundaries, and how can we as leaders create these?
Yeah, so very simply put, a boundary is a limit. It's a limit that you either set for yourself or someone else sets for you. You know, when we're young and we're children, our parents are setting boundaries for us. They let us know what time to go to bed. They tell us when we should eat, how we should behave. These are all limits that they're setting for us, right? If our parents didn't set limits for us and we were free to do whatever we want, we might just, you know, eat cereal all day and we would never bathe, right? So boundaries are good things that are in place for us. Personal boundaries usually center around like our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. How we want to feel, how we want to show up, how we want other people to treat us. We set those boundaries and limits with people, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic right now, and although lots of people are vaccinated and things are somewhat going back to normal, some people are setting a boundary to say, hey, I still want 6 feet. You know, right. I don't want to hug, right? I'm not going to that baby shower or whatever it is. That is my boundary, right? I still love you, but that's the limit that I am setting for my personal health, my physical, emotional, and mental well-being. When we get into talk about business boundaries, which we have really come to adopt and know as professionalism, right? These are the boundaries that really set the framework for working with other people and how we want to share space in an environment. So that's everything from, you know, accepting emails at a certain time, right? Gifting things to people in your office, maybe even hanging out with coworkers outside of work. Like, what does that look like? How does professionalism show up in that? It's important to have both because I think as people, we really strive to be happy. We strive to be in alignment. We want things to work. We want things to go smooth. And in the absence of boundaries, there can be chaos. It's not always the case, right? But in the absence of boundaries, there can be chaos, where there can be misunderstanding, where there's lack of communication, where, you know, if we don't speak up for ourselves and there's a boundary that we would like to have, but we don't express that, and then someone crosses that, right? Now there's tension and there's people can become upset and there's a conflict where had we expressed that boundary, there wouldn't be a conflict. I think for entrepreneurs, it's important to have boundaries because when you're an entrepreneur, especially starting out, and I think, you know, I don't know the exact statistics, but I would say the majority of entrepreneurs starting are solopreneurs, meaning you are the one and only person that is running the business. Some people start with a team or they have at least one other business partner, you know, if you're starting with a spouse or a friend or something like that. But most people are doing this alone. And so it is very easy to blend the lines between personal and professional. It's very easy to become a workaholic and have no personal life and only focus on business, or, you know, bring business into your personal life. So it's important to establish for yourself what is the lifestyle you want to have. How do you want to go about handling your business? How do you want other people to treat you and respond to you in your business? So setting boundaries in both is really, really important.
Oh my God, that was so amazing. And I was sitting over here writing notes, but I love that you said, I'm like, these are good points to recap. Yes. I love that you said in the absence of boundaries, there can be chaos. I love that. And I want to talk about, now you said that we're setting these boundaries, but how do you know if these things are working? You know, I guess from a standpoint of business owners, how can they know that the business boundaries they set are working? Is it that they feel less stressed? Is it that people are more receptive and, you know, they're seeing people say, okay, I know this is something that you're very serious about. Like, how do we know it's working?
Yeah, I think, you know, you have to start with what is it that you want? And we all want different things. Everyone works differently. Everyone has a different set of values. So you have to figure out what is it that you want, right? For me, I know in my business, while I am a morning person, I don't like to start working in the morning, right? So when I work with other people, I set a boundary. I let them know, like, hey, I usually don't check my email or get started on my work day until like around 11 a.m. Although I wake up at 5 a.m. Like I'm up, I'm reading, I'm meditating, I'm doing yoga. I might catch up on a show that I've been watching. I'm talking with my child. I'm taking my dog for a walk. I'm up, but I don't start working at 11 a.m., right? So if I'm working with someone who says, hey, I'm also a morning person, but they're sending me emails and texts at 5 a.m., right? And I never communicate to them that, hey, it is my preference, right, to start working later in the day. I might get irritated with this person. I might say, oh my God, this person's so unprofessional. How rude of this person to text me. I'm not even working yet. I'm not even on my computer, right? I may also start to feel some sense of anxiety or obligation. Like, oh my gosh, let me, cut my walk with my dog short so I can get back and respond to this email. Let me, interrupt breakfast with my child so I can answer this call, right? If I don't set that boundary. So if I know that I want to start work later in the day, and as an entrepreneur, I have some flexibility in doing that, right? Then I let people know what those boundaries are with me. I let people know, like, hey, on the weekends, I don't check emails, right? If I want to have certain things happen, right? If I know that as I'm setting up my schedule, I know that, I work best at this time. I would like to work at this time. I would like for people to communicate with me by email and not phone, right? I have to establish those boundaries. So I have to think about, as a business owner, what do I want and what makes sense in my personal life? And then I can ask for those things. Of course, when you're working with other people, and you'll learn this as an entrepreneur, you compromise a lot, right? You might go on vacation, but something comes up in your business, and because it's your business, you have to handle it, right? So I won't say, at the detriment of my business, I'm on the beach right now, I'm not answering calls, but those things come up and you have to take them as they come. So you really have to think about what is the desired outcome that you want. And then you can check to see if that's working, right? I had, when I started a skincare business about 6 years ago. And about a year into starting, I took on some contractors. And I was not clear about what I wanted from these contractors. And then I started to get frustrated saying, oh my gosh, I sent out this information for this person to design my labels and they never got back to me. But I never communicated to them if this was an urgent project or if I had a certain deadline, right? And so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, like people are just running over me in my business. No one's listening to me. I'm never working with these people again, but I never established that boundary. I never communicated what I wanted. So people have to be clear about what they want, and then you can test to see if it's working. If you're saying, hey, this is how I like my business to run, or some people get into entrepreneurship and say, I only want to work, 4 days a week or whatever it is, right? And then you're noticing that you're working more. Okay, what am I doing wrong? What did I not communicate? What can I set up differently? Is there a different system that needs to be in place? Is there someone else who can help and support me? Is there something that I can delegate so that I'm not doing all these things, so that I can free up more time and get to working the 4 days a week if that's what I want?
I love that because, one of the things you mentioned, and I'm like, oh, she's stepping on toes, is that, people emailing at certain times. And, when I think back, it's like those things could be, initially annoying, but it's like, okay, well, you didn't say this is how you like things communicated, or you don't have that automatic response on to let people know. So I think that's something that we can all be aware of, is just communicating that. And I think about how people are receptive to that. Because on one hand, people are saying, okay, this is my business and this is how I want to do it. And I set my business for a reason. But on the other hand, what if you get someone that's a client that you've been excited to work with, or someone you want to work with, and they're like, okay, this is not how I like to work. Like, how do you balance? I know you talked about changing, but the two, so that your business can still run and you're not losing set clients, or if it's like, okay, they may not be a good fit for me.
Yeah, I think, in this line of work that I do in coaching, I get a lot of I wouldn't say odd requests, but I get a lot of different requests, right? That are outside of what I typically do. And I let people know that, right? Like I'll say like, hey, this is not something that I would typically do. And then you can negotiate. You can say, I'll do it, but this is what I'll need instead. Or, one of the issues that comes up a lot in coaching, I think in service businesses in general, is scheduling. right?
Yep.
Like my time, I think I have 3 different calendars. And even though I use a scheduling service, like it's always trying to figure out what's going to work for people. So like I said earlier, even though I like to start later in the day, if I talk to a potential client and it seems like a good fit and they say, hey, I only have 8 a.m. available, I would say to them, this is not typical. This is something that I don't typically do. I do typically, only work with clients on the weekend or in the evenings after 2. But for this period of time, for this, for the set time that we're going to work together, however many weeks, months, etc., I will, work with you at 8 a.m. since that is the only time. If your schedule changes, let me know, and then we can go to something that seems more comfortable, right? But I don't open the floodgates of that to everyone. Going back to, when I started my skincare business, when I was first starting, I was just so eager to get the word out about my business and to share my product. I was popping up at every pop-up that ever happened. I was at the farmer's market. I was in the parking lot at the mall. If somebody wanted me to go deliver to their house, I did, right? And after a while, that started to get tiring. And I'm like, this does not work. I need a website. I need I need to start putting this stuff in stores. Like I can't, drive 20 minutes every time somebody wants to borrow soap. I can't have, I don't want random people coming to my house anymore to pick up product, right? This is not working. And that was hard for a lot of clients because they were so used to, calling me or texting me anytime they wanted, or if they saw me at a family function, like I had product in my car. And I was like, no, you got to go to my website, right? And this was a hard adjustment. This was a tough adjustment,
right,
especially for people that were close to me, right? Who still wanted to support my business and felt like I was just, being unreasonable. But I knew that if I wanted that business to grow, if I wanted to maintain my own personal mental health and not burn out, I had to make some adjustments. And I'll be honest, as a business owner, you will, as you start to make adjustments in your business, as you start to hold true to your boundaries, you will lose some people. But this is a good sign because that means that the right people are going to be attracted to you when you have the right boundaries in place. Because if you have people who are supporting you at your own detriment, right? You're tired all the time. You're burnt out. You don't have energy. You feel like you're just running crazy. And in business, you do lose money when you do those things, right? Then that's not a good sign. You don't want people who are going to completely drain you being a part of your business or as clients for you. You want to, as I said, I truly believe that people want to live in alignment. They want life to flow smoothly. They want to be happy. And if those things aren't happening, this is a sign that maybe you need a stronger boundary or you need a boundary in place if you don't have it.
I love that. And I think what shows up for me is the fact that, people, like you said, people need to be happy, but then also it shows up, we talked about with some previous guests, the fact that it kind of seems like, getting more specific means, maybe you'll get those clients that you want, and then the revenue will come there because you're able to serve them at a better capacity or in a better way. So I love that you mentioned that. And I want to talk about one of the things you said, and I love it. You said, even if you got product in your car, if a family member asks for it, go to my website. So I think that is surely sticking to those boundaries that you set. I want to talk about how do you communicate your boundaries to your employees and your staff, but then also your family members. And I ask this because say that you realize that you're burning out and that this is something that you haven't always had in place. And they're like, okay, like you said, you've been doing it this way. Why change now? So would you say that you should have something written in place, or it should come more so from a formal standpoint when it comes to employees? What advice do you have when it comes to communicating that?
Yeah, I think the strength of any boundary is really based on the relationship you have with the person. So if you are, a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners are very intent on being the boss, right? They want to be in charge. They want to call the shots. They want people to respect them and listen to them. But one thing that I've learned in business, you really have to get to know your employees, right? So there are things that you might do in business and you feel like you do well. But once you get to know your employees, you find that they may be able to do them better than you, right? You also find that when you start working with other people, right, going back to this idea of being a solopreneur, you do everything, and then you want help because you're tired of doing everything. But then you find it difficult to communicate exactly what you do, right? So a lot of times when I work with people, I have them write down, I do this activity, this plate activity. But the first thing we do is I have people write down how they're spending their time. Show me what a typical day is. How much time are you giving to all of the things that you are doing, right? And people find that like, whoa, I'm spending a lot of time on social media, or I'm spending a lot of time at the computer and I don't want to, right? And then the flip side of that plate activity is once we figure out how we're spending our time, right? I want you to get clear about exactly what you're doing during that time. So people are typically non-specific about the things that they do, right? People will say things like, in your daily life, oh, what are you doing on Saturday? Oh, I'm cleaning up, right? Well, what does cleaning up consist of? Are you vacuuming? Are you doing laundry? Are you washing dishes? Right? Getting real specific. So a lot of times we have business owners who fail to communicate the process of what needs to be done for employees. So they'll say, hey, I need my website design. That can mean a lot of different things, especially to someone that's a web designer. If you talk to anyone that works in IT, they get very specific about a lot of things that we don't typically think about, right? But in communicating what needs to be done to employees, what needs to be done to the employees that we have, we forget a lot of times that things can go wrong, or we don't communicate all of the steps in the process, right? So I always recommend, if you're training someone, even if you don't have employees yet, if you're still a solopreneur, you know that one day you're going to ask, I don't know, your teenage child for help, a cousin, whoever. Start to write down what you do, right? Like, first, go broad. What does a typical day look like for you, right? You get up, you check emails, you do inventory, you post on social media, whatever it is. Like, write out what you do on a daily basis, and then get specific about what those things are. Especially if you're a person that is particular and you want things done a certain way, right? You have to be clear about what those look like. So put things in writing. Communicate to employees exactly what their job role is going to be. People say they want help. Oh, I'm hiring for interns. Well, what will the intern do? They'll support me. Support you in doing what? Like, what are they doing on a daily basis? Specific. Are you looking for a social media intern who is going to, and people get this confused too. People say, oh, I want a social media intern. I want someone to help me with social media, right? And what they're expecting is that person's going to come on and be able to grow their social media and get them more customers or clients and more followers, right? But that's not necessarily the same thing. Perhaps what you're actually looking for is a digital marketer, right? A social media manager can post what you want them to post. Do you want a graphic designer that's going to create the actual post that you're making, that's going to record all the video reels, right? We have to get specific about those things. So I would recommend, if you have employees, interns, anyone that you work with, even when you're working with contractors, write things out, because they can always refer back to that. And then you don't get into the situation where you're constantly meeting with people. And that happens a lot, right? You work with a contract, you say, hey, I want this done. You have a big meeting, and then that person goes off to work, and now they're confused about what they're actually supposed to be doing. So they come back to you with a bunch of questions, or you get into this big email thread because you weren't clear about what you wanted. When it comes to family and boundaries, I think that takes a longer time because your family is so used to, one, having access to you whenever they want. I know when I first quit my job and became an entrepreneur, to my family, that meant that I was now just at home and available. So they would call me throughout the day. Everybody all of a sudden wanted to go to lunch, right? People were just showing up at my house to stop by and hang out and, watch Maury or whatever was on TV. And I'm like, hey, I'm working here, But for them, it's like, if I was not at a job, then that did not equal work. You get what I'm saying? So they were just so comfortable with like, hey, this is my sister, my daughter, my cousin, whoever. Of course I could come by. Oh, you're at that pop-up. Let me come by and talk to you when I'm trying to work and interact with clients, right? Like, I'm not trying to sit here and taste your food or talk about whatever. Like, this is work for me. And so I had to spend a lot of time communicating to my family what my work now looked like, what a typical day or what my schedule could look like, and when I was available, right? Really let them know, like, I'm not available all the time. If you call me and I don't answer, it probably means I'm in a meeting or working or I'm with a client or whatever. It doesn't mean that just because I'm not punching a clock that now I'm available for FaceTime, right? Or if you see me post on social media, now you're DMing me and expecting me to respond, but I have those posts scheduled. So I'm not actually on my phone right now, right? So it takes time with family and understanding that. And especially if you're a person that works with family, then you have to be even more clear about what those boundaries and those lines look like, because there is crossover, right? You want to be friendly and familiar, but you also want to get the work done. So you have to come to an agreement about what that looks like in the work that you're doing.
Oh my, that was so good. I'm like, yes, yes, yes to all of that, because definitely I think for a lot of people, they can relate to, and especially in today's age with so many people being entrepreneurs and work life looking different. So in terms of like a 9 to 5 or corporate America, it's different. Like you said, from punching out. Yeah, I'm still an entrepreneur. I'm still a business owner, but my time looks different. I think a lot of people can relate to that when it comes to especially, family and friends.
Yes.
So, yeah, and I want to talk about, so Brandy, one of the things you do is you teach people how to remove the barriers that can prevent them from living their ideal life. And I really wanted to drill in on boundaries, because I think that's important to lead to, that's a lot of barriers I myself have, and I'm sure others have. So I'm really glad that you shared your expertise on that. But I know you're also an accountability coach. So I want to discuss the accountability in terms of meeting business goals. So for you, what does it mean being accountable, and being accountable to your goals mean when it comes to business?
Yeah, I think I will say I'm not a person that tells people to make realistic goals. I think, if you want a wild goal, go for it, because, as the saying goes, if you shoot for the moon, you might end up amongst the stars. And I think so many of us, we have really low expectations for ourselves, right? Like we'll say, I have so many people that want to start businesses or have a goal that they want to do, and they want to start so small, right? It doesn't even make sense, right? Like people will say, I want to lose 20 pounds in the next 5 years. Like if you were really focused, you could lose 20 pounds this month. Right? Like if you really wanted to start a business, you don't have to wait. Like people say, I really want to start a business, but I'm going to wait till I retire. Or people will say, I want to make more money, but just, I just want $1 raise, nothing too big. I can live off a dollar extra an hour. Right. And so I really encourage people to go big, because I think people are really capable of more than they think they're capable of. The problem is, we do have, these roadblocks are in the way, and some of them are not even real roadblocks. These are things that we make up. I was coaching, when I first started coaching, I was coaching a woman who was married, and she kept saying that she wanted to start this business. She wanted to build her confidence, but, her husband would never support it. Right. And as we're going through the program, one of the things that I work with clients on is really building their circle of support. And so naturally, she's married. Your husband is likely going to be in your circle of support. And she had never had a conversation with her husband about wanting to start this business. Her husband didn't know that she struggled with confidence. Her husband didn't know what she was passionate about or what her desires were, right? She was working a government job, and she always dreamed of, designing clothes. He never knew that about her, right? So in her mind, she thought, well, he'll never support this. He'll never get on board with this. This is something that I can't do right now, right? She was one of the people that's on the 10-year plan, want to design clothes, I'll make a dress, I'll sew right. 5 minutes a day, and I'll get there in 10 years, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, have a conversation, express to him what you want. And he was so behind it. He took on an extra job to get more money so that she can have funding to start it. He helped and build her website. Like these things that we don't, we hold these things in and we don't communicate to people what we want. I think when it comes to business owners, we think so many of us are trying to follow someone else's blueprint. And I think while there's benefit in learning from others, no one's story or journey is going to be identical to yours. So we look at businesses and we say, oh, Rihanna grew her Fenty brand in 3 years. I'm going to give myself 3 years to grow my business. It might take you 13, right? It could take you 6 months. Everyone's totally different. So we have to think about our goals in terms of what we think we're capable of, and how quickly we think we can get to that goal. So when I work with people, I want to know your wildest dream. What is the thing that you say you want? What is the goal that you're trying to reach? And give me the billionaire version of it, right? If money were not an object, what is that thing? Okay? And then let's scale back. Let's say money were an object. You only got $1 million to make this thing happen. And then let's scale back a little more. You only got 100,000. Let's scale back a little more. You only got 1,000. And I want people, in doing that, I want people to really see how they can scale something really from nothing into something. So when it comes to being accountable to that, first you have to believe in the vision that you're setting for it. If you don't believe that it's possible, right? If I'm asking you your wildest dream, I'm saying, okay, you want to get in shape. What does your dream body look like? What would you wear if you were the size and weight and shape that you wanted to be? You want to start a business? What would your lifestyle look like if you were the top business owner in your industry? If this worked out exactly how you wanted it to, what would that look like, right? And once you believe in that, then we have something to hold on to, right? Then it's personal to you, and we have something that is actually going to keep you interested. It's locking into your why. A lot of people start businesses because, I don't know, they saw a meme on the internet that said you should start a business, get an LLC. I see that a lot on Instagram. Everybody should have an LLC. Like, what?
Right.
So people are starting businesses, or people just say, I just want to make money. Well, you don't have to start a business to make money. So really evaluate what your why is. And then once we have a why, then we have to start thinking about what our current lifestyle looks like and what habits we can start to implement. And I think that's the hardest part for people, because if you're implementing a new habit, that means that an old habit has to die. And people get real personal and uptight about letting go of things that they have held on to, whether or not those things are working for them, right? People will tell me all the time, I don't have time. I say, what time do you get up? Oh, I sleep in on the weekends and I wake up, at 10. I'm like, well, what if you woke up 30 minutes early? Oh, well, no, because then I'll just be more tired because I haven't gotten enough sleep. Okay, what time do you go to bed? Oh, I go to bed at about 2 in the morning. Well, why don't you go to bed at 1 in the morning? Well, I start watching YouTube and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, so what do you want here, right? How do we get you closer to what you want? That may mean, right, in this period of time that you're working with me, be it 6 months or a year, that may mean that you go to bed an hour earlier if you want to work towards this, right? That may mean that you turn off the TV. That may mean that you have to cut back on YouTube. That may mean, if you're looking to save money, you're not going to eat out as much, right? You have to make a sacrifice somewhere, and that sacrifice could be big or small. So I get people to really connect to their why and to imagine their biggest dream possible, and then using that belief to leverage how we go about creating a plan to get to that goal.
I love that. And you know what, Brandy, it makes me think about this thing around, I'm sure that you see a lot of it is around, of course, like you mentioned, mindset. And I feel like just hearing you talk is that people don't want to realize where their flaws are, or they're scared to face those things. And I think about like you coming in and you're saying, okay, well, get up 30 minutes early, and they're making up all of these excuses. And you're like, nope, we're not going to deal with the excuses. We're going to find a way if this is something that you really want. And do you find most of the time that people are willing to do those things?
Eventually, yes. I think I introduce things that people have never really thought about. I realize that a lot of people are so set in their ways, right?
Yeah.
There are so many people that I talk to that I realize they are adults, right? Older than me. I'm in my 30s. Like, I work with people, I think the oldest client I worked with was 71, right?
Wow.
And there are people who are still living as if their parents are right there watching them and telling them exactly what they should and shouldn't do, right? There are people who, oh, I would never do this because, what would people think? And I'm thinking to myself, gosh, you are like a grown adult. Like, live the life that you want to live, right? Like, oh, well, I can't wake up early because, I usually don't wake up early. That's not a reason to not wake up early. Like, you can definitely set your alarm for 30 minutes sooner. People say, well, I don't use an alarm. I just wake up naturally. Well, if you want, I had a person I was coaching who was training for a marathon, and they were working full time. They said, God, I've been training for this marathon, but I keep missing days. I just can't hold myself accountable. So I say to them, well, when are you running? After work? Probably not the best time because you've been working all day and you're tired, right? And then if you go running, you're running at 8 or 9 o'clock at night, you're probably not going to run for a long time because, you live on the East Coast. It's cold outside. It may not be the most safe for you to be running that late outside. So how about waking up early, right? You don't have to be at work until 9 o'clock. You could go, you could wake up 4, 5, 6 and go running. Oh, well, you should not wake up early. But that's not an excuse not to wake up early. Like, you need to get your running in. When you run the marathon, right? I was like, what time do you have to be there? Oh, I got to be there at 6. Well, this is great practice for you to get up early by training early, right?
Right.
And so it's things that they haven't considered because they're so stuck in the routine that they already have, right? Or people will say to me, well, oh, I can't work on that goal because I have kids. Well, how can you incorporate your kids and empower them to help you on this goal, right? I know when I was starting every business that I've started since I've had my child, he's 13 now, he's helped me in some kind of way. When I was starting my skincare business, my son, he actually made me a sign that said my business name on it, right? Of course, I helped him, he used a stencil, whatever. He supported in there. Right. When I would go out to pop-up shops, I would bring him with me. He would set up my product on the table. He would help me, put up the tent that we had. In my coaching business now, like I've taught him how to use different programs on the computer so he can help build flyers for me or things that I'm doing, or, to add things to my never-ending Google Drive that I have as I'm creating things, right? There's lots of different ways that you can really use, right, the people around you and use your family to help you and not have that be an excuse, right? I said to someone too, they were saying like, oh, they were working through some mental health issues, and I suggested journaling for them. They said, well, I don't have time to journal. And I said, walk me through your day. And they said, oh, I can't because I got to take my kids to soccer practice. And I said, do you play soccer? No, taking my kid to soccer practice. Okay, so what are you doing in that hour and a half when your kid is playing soccer? Yeah. Grab your notebook, go in the car, sit on the bleachers, and journal. Right? Put your headphones in, play some soft music so that you're not listening, to the coach scream at the kids, but you have that time for yourself, right? If you have small kids, right, do they have a bedtime? Set a bedtime for them. Especially when my son was younger, I would get up earlier because that was the time where I knew I could be uninterrupted and really get things done, right? Because at the end of the day, and I always tell people, I like mornings because that's the part of the day you have the most control over, right? When you start your day before you've checked any email, if you live with other people before anybody else gets up, you can really set the tone for your day. At the end of the day, not so much because I'm tired. Now there's, 4 or 5 fires I got to put out. At some point, right. I'm going to have to eat. If I'm cooking for other people, they're going to want to eat. I feel gross. I want to shower. I'm looking around the house. I got to clean. Like, there's all these things that come up in the evening. So the morning is the part of the day that you can control. Now, if you're the type of person that you're like, well, Brandy, I'm a night owl. I work best at night. Then find a way to get all of the other things out of the way early in the day so that you have that time at night. And then use downtime. If you're a person that commutes to work where you're not driving, you're on public transportation, right? Instead of just sitting there listening to your music, you could catch up on that book that you wanted to read. Write down, 10 tasks that you need to do in your business. Get on your phone and start doing some research about, your business licenses or whatever it is that you're trying to do. You have time in your day to make things happen. If you really utilize and leverage that time.
Agreed. Now, I want to kind of quickly take a shift to when it comes to being accountable for your goals as a leader and a business owner. How do you hold yourself accountable to meeting your business goals and making sure that you set, like you said, these outrageous goals and that you achieve them?
Yes, you tell other people. That's a big thing. I find that business owners, they think, a lot of business owners think they have to have it all figured out, right? Again, we're following other people's blueprint, and in doing so, you don't get all of those details, right? You don't get the conversation with the contractor in looking at someone else's blueprint. So, what people don't tell you that is very important as a business owner, that you share your goals with other people. If we look at large companies, most large companies, nonprofits, we say, they put out an annual report, which is basically a report card. This is what we did last year. Some put out a report every 3 years or 5 years or so on and so forth, right? You have to tell other people what you're wanting to work on. Large companies call it a strategic plan. If you're a small business, you should have a plan, right? If I come to you, you hire me in your business, I should know what your vision is. Not like, oh, I just want to make money and have more sales. I want to know your vision for the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, right? Because if I'm signing on to work for your company, I want to know, A, is this something that I agree with and feel like I can help and support? 2, do I have a future here? So you got to let people know what your vision is. You don't sound crazy if you tell people something that you're working on. You won't sound crazy if you don't have it all together, because in telling other people and sharing with other people what you're working on, they can actually help you. As I was saying before, getting to know your employees and understanding what their strengths are, you might say, hey, my goal is to, right now we're just selling online. We have a website. My goal is to build an app. I want to have, this interactive this or that. And someone on your team might say, you know what? I went to school to learn how to build apps and I can help do this, right? And that can drive you to get to your goals even sooner. So if you have a business, if you're working remotely, you need to have a Google Drive, a Google Calendar. You need to bring up the goals, put it at the top of the agenda when you meet, whatever. If you have a physical location, post your goals in your office, on the wall. Everybody who works with you and for your company needs to know what they're working towards. And you have to be, and I think this is so true, given what we've gone through the last, 2 years now in this pandemic, that you have to be flexible in your goals. And I think this is sometimes what people are afraid of. You say, hey, I want to do this thing. And it's a really big goal. And then as you start to work on it, you start to refine that goal. And now you're afraid to tell people, oh, hey, I don't think that original goal is going to work out. Let's do it this way. Be flexible and be open to change. There are so many people who had to drastically change and pivot in their businesses when the pandemic hit. People who never thought they would do online, virtual, anything have now done it with much success. So being flexible, but you have to tell people and also invite input into your goals to make them stronger so that you can get there.
I love that you said that, because I can personally relate to, I don't know, thinking like, oh my God, especially as a leader, you have to have it all figured out. And You don't want people to think you're changing. I wouldn't say I changed a lot, but there were certain tweaks that I made, and they weren't drastic, but it's like, I don't want them to think I'm not sure. But then I think that letting them in on it, now I'm even more comfortable about it. And I don't feel judged, because it's like, okay, we're moving with the times, or we're moving because this is how we need to move to grow. And I'm okay with that. But I will say that was something I had to get comfortable with. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes. And so, Brandy, I want to talk about the programs that you offer to people, because this has been so valuable for me, and I'm sure for people listening. I want to talk about the programs that you provide and how can it help. Say I'm an entrepreneur listening right now, and I'm like, I want to speak to Brandy. I know she can help me. How would you be able to help them?
Yeah. So I would say follow me on social media. I am. I don't want to say I'm a social media addict, but I am on social media a lot. I post a lot. I give a lot of tips and tools. And also, I think the benefit of following me on social media is that in real time, I am also letting you know what I'm working on and the struggles that I'm having. I want people to know that I'm a real person too. Like, I'm not perfect. I don't consider myself an expert. I am on the same or similar path as you. I'm just a couple of steps ahead. So what I like to do with people is I have a lot of different programs. Some of them are self-paced. So you can go to my website and you can download, a 7-day this or 10-day that to help you and motivate you in your mindset. Right now, I'm in a 12-day momentum, actually starting tomorrow, 12-day momentum course with folks who want to figure out how they can use this time to finish the year strong. And so I offer those programs throughout the year. And then I have a group coaching program through my Patreon. It's a small group, less than 10 folks. We meet every Monday to check in, to talk about our goals, to go over strategy and process about getting toward those goals. I only offer one-on-one coaching to people who have either been a part of my group program or who have done one of my self-paced programs or my challenges. Because I find that a lot of people will say they want one-on-one coaching, but they're not ready for the intensity of it,
Right.
Or that level of commitment, right? So I really want to meet people where they are, so as to not overwhelm people. But I do offer, on a limited basis, I do offer one-on-one coaching as well.
Love it. So we have a lot of entrepreneurs who are just starting in their journey or they're in their startup idea phase. I want to ask you, what are some of your favorite tools that you've used that have helped you, or resources that have helped you in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yes, I have really learned to use my phone to my advantage. So as much as I like to be on social media, most of the apps that I have on my phone help me stay organized and help me stay focused in my business. So things that I like to use, I talked earlier about scheduling. I use Calendly, which I absolutely love. And the app works great on the phone if you have it, or if you want to get the app for your phone. I use my Google Calendar a lot. I stay within the Google Suite, which is very helpful because, like I said, I like the way the desktop looks, and it's pretty much the same flow on the phone. I have just a bunch of different tools, and I have my phone somewhat organized where I can easily and readily find these things. I have an iPhone, so I use Notes a lot. I can easily share things from like my Google Docs. I have a DocuSign on here, like things that I use regularly, I have on my phone so that I can do things quickly. If I'm on a call with someone and we come to an agreement, I can very easily push 2 buttons on my phone and send you a contract to sign, right? Like, I don't want to make things complicated. I want to make things easy for me. So any way that I can find ways to minimize the amount of time something takes me, or something that can be made digital where it's just something very easy that we can share. I love things like that. I read a lot. I've been getting more, like I have periods where I read a bunch, and then I have periods where I'm like watching TED Talks and random YouTube videos from time to time. So right now is a reading period. And so I read, I say I read a lot, but I read things over and over again. So books that I read, like I've read The 4 Agreements probably 3 or 4 times. Another book that I love is called Energetic Boundaries by Cindy Dale. It's a really great book, which talks about, especially personal boundaries that you have with people, and how not to repeat patterns, and how to effectively communicate your boundaries and to set boundaries for yourself, which is a book that I'm constantly coming back to. So I think, those tools are things that I use in there. Also, I really treat my social media, again, I say I'm on social media a lot, but I treat my social media like my personal vision board. So I only follow people that I want to learn from or be inspired by. And so I'm not filtering through just a lot of junk or, like TMZ type stuff. I'm really, when I get on social media, I'm focused. And the people that I'm following, I'm learning from. And it's, refocusing and keeping my mindset in the right place so that I can be motivated enough, organized enough to continue to do the work that I'm doing.
I love that. And I can, I think about, I just recently started my personal Instagram page over. And one of the things I did is similar to you, is I just follow, not even friends and things. It was like inspirational accounts, because I knew that's like you said, I needed to be inspired. I need to keep my head down in the work. So that's something I'm definitely doing too. And speaking of Instagram, I want to ask a couple of random questions before we hop off. What is the most interesting random account that you follow?
Oh, I want to get this right. So let me actually get my phone and look it up.
Okay.
What the actual name is.
Okay.
And I don't know how I found this account, but it just came up. Black Girls in Trader Joe's.
Oh, okay. I've heard of that account.
I think I might have been like looking at a reel or something that had a recipe, and then I just got on this page, and it's like, I'm the type of person, I grew up in California, in the Bay Area, so Trader Joe's is everywhere. Everybody's like a health freak. But I don't think until like maybe 2 years ago, I actually stepped foot into Trader Joe's, and I was so confused why the store was arranged like that. I didn't know anything that they were selling. I think I like got a juice and left. But this account is like, it's popping. Like, she makes a lot of different recipes. She shows like a lot of different brands and stuff, which has encouraged me to go back to Trader Joe's and actually try some of the stuff. So it's a really cool account.
Yeah, I love that account. And shout out to, I don't really even like frozen foods like that, but Trader Joe's have one of the best frozen foods section. Oh my God. I love it. And it's always packed, but the lines move fast for some reason.
I'm learning.
Yes. So what TV show do you wish still aired?
A TV show that I wish still aired, Martin, is my favorite TV show of ever. I still watch it. I have it on DVD. Anytime it comes on TV, I'll stop whatever and watch it. It's just a really good show.
Yeah, Martin is so underrated. I see someone commenting yesterday about they had to get rid of like a couple of shows, and I think it was like out of Family Matters, Martin and Jamie Foxx show, and I can't remember the other one. But someone said Family Matters, and then they were like, no, they said Martin. And they were like, no, you're tripping. And the person was like, only because it hasn't aged well. Like, a lot of the things are, like, oh, you're not supposed to say that. But yeah, Martin is a classic. So how do you practice self-care?
Oh, I love self-care. I think some of the things that I do, like, I've learned to slow down a lot. That's probably the biggest form of self-care, is me not rushing. And so in slowing down, I take longer showers. I light a candle every time I bathe. I make a playlist for my shower. It's like a whole ritual that I do. But it just gives me time with me where there's no agenda. I used to think, I used to want to do self-care. I used to want to make like all these spa appointments and go here and go there. And then that just got crazy because I felt like it was just another commitment, and it really wasn't nurturing myself. So being that, I shower daily, I know some people don't, and that's controversial on the internet, but, I just make that time my time. And I really make it special for me. Like I went out and bought like all these like really thick, fluffy, special towels. I have like this little headband that I put on. It's a thing. And I think that, for me, just taking that extra time to not be in a rush, to say like, look, if I'm in here for 40 minutes or an hour, then I'm in here and that's it. And that's my self-care for the day.
Love that. And side note, everyone listening, y'all better be out here bathing and every day and moisturizing your skin. We're not listening to what these doctors are saying. You better put some lotion on.
Right.
And that is that. So I want to ask, what's the best risk that you've taken in your business?
The best risk that I've taken?
That has paid.
This is going to sound crazy. But shutting everything down and starting over completely.
Let's talk about that quickly, if you could. What does that mean?
Like, I know like people like to rebrand and do things like that, but business can be very personal. And I was going through a time in my life where I was doing things and I just wanted a complete reset. And so that meant, I changed the name of the business. I changed the logo. I changed everything of the business. And it was like an overnight thing. Like most people sit on ideas or they spend time, they spend weeks, months, years. I was like, you know what? Tonight is the night. I'm doing everything over. And I just did everything over and started over. And I communicated, sent an email out to my clients, said, hey, this is going to sound crazy, but here's what I was thinking. And I realized I didn't want to do it this way anymore. And this is how I want to do it. If that scares you off, If it makes me seem unstable or unreliable, I apologize. I promise I'm just as credible as I was before.
Right.
But this is what I want to do now, and I would love for you to be on this journey with me. And people stuck around and they stayed. And here I am now, you know. Sometimes I think one of the things that I wish more business owners did was trust themselves. I always believe, you know, even when I'm working with people, like I'm giving you tools and tips and this and that, but you know what's best for you, right? Like you've got to trust yourself, because you came to me because something inside of you, your intuition, your heart, your soul, your deepest desire was telling you to act on this thing. And the only thing that I'm really going to do is encourage you to act on it, right? I don't think that I'm giving people anything that if they spend hours on the internet like I do, they couldn't find out for themselves, right? So continue to trust yourself. If you feel like I need to do this thing for my business and maybe nobody else agrees with you, or you've never seen it done before, trust yourself and do it and make it happen, because that's what people are doing now. There's been a lot of talk about in music about Drake and Kanye West, and I'm a huge Kanye West fan. I should just say that. But there's
we got to shut it down now. We got to shut down
how they're marketing, right? About how they're marketing their albums, which sounds nuts. Like who goes on a tour pretty much with no album out and they're just playing random songs, right? Who posts, you know, this random emoji poster that everybody's been copying all of a sudden, right? Drake's like, I'm just going to put billboards out in every city and tell you that such and such from your city is on my album. You should go get it, right? Yeah. This all just sprung up on the internet and now it's working. So if you have an idea in your business, if there's something you want to do, just trust yourself. And if people trust you, which, I mean, we could go into a whole nother conversation about building trust through your business, but if people trust you, then they'll be down for it. They'll go along with it. So just continue to trust yourself.
I'm going to save that type because we definitely have. Well, I don't know now since you said you're a Kanye fan. I was going to say we have to have you come back, but I don't know, Brandy. This was good, but I might have to scrap it. I don't know. But yes, they were genius for that. So I do agree. And one of the other questions I want to ask is, you mentioned people trusting themselves. What advice would you give to an entrepreneur in their first year of business?
I would say in your first year of business, try a bunch of different things, right? Being that you're new, I would say don't get locked into a certain way of doing things. Try things. The other thing I would say, two things that people fail to do when they start a business. One, build your customer list. Anytime you go out to an event, anytime you have an interaction with someone, say, hey, can I add you to my email list? People have text group lists, whatever. Get people's contact information so that you can follow up with them, especially if you're going to do like pop-up events or like you're being asked to go somewhere or do something. Like, you never know when you might see those people again, but you can always contact them if you get their information. The second thing is to ask your customers questions. When I first started, I probably gave out a survey every week to the clients that I work with. I want to know, how's it going? What's working for you? What's not working for you? What did you get out of this session? Right? If you have a product, what do you like about the product? Do you love the smell of the product? What other scents do you like? If you have clothing, how does the clothing feel on your body? Right? Ask your customers questions, because your paying customers are going to be the people that help you grow your business. They are the people who are locked into your brand and what you offer, and they can help you build your business to have more offerings or to make what you currently offer better. So ask your customers questions, whether that's in a survey, whether that's on an Instagram story, however you want to do it, but ask your customers questions.
I love that. And you know what? You're providing so much value, because sometimes, you know, you said another tip for you and not what you learned and all of these things, but you said, okay, take this and do this. So I love that you left them with those kind of tips. So thank you. And finally, what does it mean for you to be Black in business?
Oh, to be Black in business, I think it's powerful. I think for me to be Black in business means that I'm a part of a legacy, and I'm leaving a legacy for the generation behind me, so that people know that the ideas that they have in their mind are possible, and that it can be done, and they're watching it be done right before them. And so it's empowering because there's so many people, Black people that have started business that have struggled and persevered, so that people like you and I can know what's possible, and so that we can be here pursuing our dreams as well. And so I definitely want to leave that legacy and do that for the next generation, and to not just have the idea, but to be successful in business is what I think we're all striving for.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, Brandy, I know you mentioned before, but if you could share with people where to find you and how they can connect with you, and also any upcoming projects that they can support.
Yes, you can find me on the internet. My website is brandywashere.com. That's Brandy with a Y. My Instagram, I'm not on Facebook as much. I'm not on Twitter. I am on Instagram, and you can find me at Brandy Was Here _ at the end. What I have going on, you can always join my Patreon. You can go to my website and check that out. I do a book club every month. I do a live Q&A, and I also have my group coaching there. From my website, you can also see like the courses and challenges that I offer if you want to work on some self-accountability before perhaps joining a group or getting some one-on-one coaching. But you can reach out to me there.
Love it. Well, Brandy, thank you so much for being on the show, and we wish you all the best. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was great.
Of course. Thank you. Okay, so Brandy definitely had me at the edge of my seat with all of these gems. There were so many things that were broken down in this conversation that I hope you picked them up. And if not, be sure to rewind, because trust me, you don't want to miss any of the gems that she dropped. Brandy gave us a free class on boundaries, and some of the key things that resonated with me was definitely the importance of communication. As business owners, we may often be stuck in our own ways, and we feel that our boundaries are not being respected when we simply just need to communicate them better. In light of these, we also unpack the importance of being flexible with our goals, as well as creating a community to hold you accountable to your vision and your goals. As Brandy put it, we need to stop making excuses and start being active to reach our desired destinations in our businesses. Remember to take a step back and never doubt the process. It would all make sense in the end. Thank you so much for listening, and be sure to check out blacktobusiness.com/66 for complete show notes and resources mentioned during this episode. We would also be so grateful if you could leave us a review and rate this episode and our show to let us know how helpful this has been for you. And if you know someone that could benefit from this episode, please forward it to them. Until next time, family, same time next week.